All right, today I have a very special guest. One person who I grew up with. Well, he was older than me, but I grew up with him. He taught me, coached me, all the above. Today I have Coach Dan Sneeringer. How we doing, brother?
Doing well. How about you, my man?
I'm doing good, trying to make a living.
That's it. One day at a time.
Absolutely. So tell me, or tell the people. So how long you been coaching slash teaching?
So, 24 years in the industry. Coached every year that I've been in at various levels. I think I've
Okay.
taught and coached your whole family.
Absolutely. Oh, for sure. Some softer than others, right?
That's right.
So, Coach, you've been coaching, teaching for a long time. Obviously, probably whenever you first started out, it was quite different than what it is now. What do you think has changed, not only with the teaching at your teaching aspect, but also with the children you have been teaching?
So I think honestly, man, I started teaching a long, long time ago. You got to remember, I mean, the big thing back then when I started teaching was the millennium, turning of 99 to
Yeah,
2000, 1990 to 2000. So if you could think back then, technology wasn't as prevalent. Everything was still brick and mortar with books. Computers were kind of obsolete. You really didn't see them a lot in the classrooms. So everything was driven towards student learning in a classroom, man, with a lot of like you and I are doing right now. We're just
yeah,
conversing, we're talking, there's a lot of discussion. We didn't have technology as the babysitter. Now, don't get me wrong, man. Technology is a great thing. I mean, it really has opened up a lot of avenues in the school system, in life, obviously, with cyber and everything else. But I think the big thing, man, is kids now are driven by technology. Their whole world revolves around it. And cats like me, man. I mean, I'm an old head now in
yeah,
education. I mean, think about it. I mean, seriously, 48 years old, man. I used to pride myself on being kind of on the same level as kids,
yeah,
but the only thing that's kind of kept me grounded is having daughters that are young. I've got a sixth grader and a senior, so I'm still in tune with what's going down in the schools and how things are being done. But I think the older generation, you know, from what we were trained and what we learned, and my generation, how we grew up, is not how the kids are growing up now, and
yeah,
it's very hard for us to adapt. And I think, you either got to get on the bus or you got to get off at the next stop. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
one of the, you know what I mean? It's just one of them things. So, I do love technology. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great resource when used correctly. But I think a lot of the parenting, a lot of the evening conversations for having dinner with your family, that whole dynamic that's changed. It's not the same as it used to be, and it shows, man. It's showing in what we're seeing in the kids nowadays in society, and hopefully things will pan out. These kids will have some motivation and be able to do things. I know right now I sit here and I look at these cats on TikTok and these digital creators, man, they making more money in a year than I've ever seen in my career.
Yeah,
It's insane. But I still love my babies no matter what. No matter
yeah.
what you do, there's still the personal touch that's involved. But love it, man. Love it.
So, as you know, my brother, he actually teaches, his wife teaches too, Beth and Justin, shout out to them. And I've heard some horror stories with some of the kids growing up. I believe she's in elementary school. My brother, I believe, is in middle school like you.
Yeah,
What
he
is the
is.
disconnect between, is it parenting? Is it the lack of attention, or, kids getting in trouble at school, or maybe we're too soft? And what do you think the issue is there? Because I've heard some absolute
I'm gonna
terrible
tell you
stories.
what we've been able to pinpoint, honestly, man. You come from a big family. Your
Yeah,
mama was always very supportive of you guys. She did a great job in the rearing and the upbringing. She was very blessed to have been able to homeschool and keep you guys at home and, nurture you up until she was ready to cut the umbilical, so to speak, and put y'all in public school. And I
absolutely.
think nowadays the family dynamic has changed so much that most families, if they're a single or a dual parent household, they just don't have the ability to do that anymore. There's always somebody working. There's never somebody home. You've got a lot of latchkey kids. These kids are being babysat by their technology. You
Yeah,
come in, you lock the door, you do your homework, You hop on, Facebook, or not this generation, they're snapping. Everybody's snapping and TikToking now. So the disconnect is the family dynamic is gone. You just don't see a lot of interaction. I mean, next time you go out, one of the things we always talk about is, when you go out to a restaurant and you see a family with children, watch what everybody's doing. See if they stack all their phones up on a table and they communicate and converse as a family, or see if everybody got that phone in front of their face, including the parents, and see
Absolutely.
if there's any interaction. And that's where the disconnect is. So with that, these kids don't build those interpersonal skills in the relationships that your generation and your mama instilled in you guys as young
Yeah.
kids. Kids don't understand conflict resolution now. They don't know how to speak and work out problems. And that in turn shows its face in the school system.
Yeah.
So kids, nowadays, man, they're very impulsive. And
Yeah.
and that is a true dysfunction, and that really hinders the education setting.
Oh, for sure. And shout out to mom. She says I don't shout her out enough on the podcast. So shout out to mom. But she did do a
Yeah,
very good job.
get Miss Dina.
I think one thing my family did well is I had a lot of brothers who held us accountable as well. So I had those figures in my life. In school, are you feeling like you're being more of a parent than you had to in previous years? Are you having to babysit these kids and parent them, or you feel like it's just what exactly is going on in your mind state?
Nah, man, you know me. Like, all y'all were always my babies. It don't
Yeah,
matter who you are. The only thing that changes my motto is kids are kids. The
yeah,
only thing that changes is the parents. Um, as a teacher, you go into that profession knowing that these are going to be your babies no matter what. The blessing is that you're able to impact them, hopefully in a positive way. Now, there's some kids that are harder than others to reach, but the best thing I can do as a male, which of course males were a minority in the education system to begin with,
yeah.
the best thing I can do is to love the kids and to be a support system for them. If they need to speak to me, if they need to talk to me, if they pick me up, shoot, man. And I'll tell you, one of the things I always tell everybody, where I'm at in Grovetown, we're a heavy military community.
That's
So
exactly what I
one
was
of the,
about to say. Yeah,
so one of the coolest things for me that people don't realize, I said, I have learned probably more from my students than I have ever taught my students. And the reason I say that is because a lot of our kids are very transient. They've come from different areas, where they've been, the parents have been, stationed in the military bases. So I really love the conversation with my students, with my
yeah,
baby, saying, tell me a little bit about the culture where you were at. A lot of kids that are overseas, you learn so much from talking to these kids, and you have to have a soft heart because you realize, like, man, there's never been a whole lot of stability in their life. So if I, as a grown man, can be some stability while they're there for 2 years, or while their daddy or mama is deployed, then I mean, what more can I ask
yeah.
for? So that's kind of my jam, man. I love it. I don't feel like anything has truly changed, so to speak. Not internally for me. I still love them the same way I did my first group of kids in '99, 2000. That ain't changed at all.
Yeah.
Like I said, the only thing that truly changes is the parents, and the kids. It's just different issues. There's just different things that their baggage is what we call it. That's the only thing that's
Absolutely.
changed.
Do you
You
feel
know.
like, from a disciplinary standpoint, has it gotten worse or easy for you to discipline these kids, and is it more effective or less effective than what it used to be?
So the discipline, you kind of have to roll with the punches, man. The discipline, it's such a unique situation where I think the older you get, the thicker your skin gets. Things that used to frustrate me when I first started teaching, like, and granted, now I think rules are there for a reason, but there's certain things, I used to get on kids for like the dumb stuff, like using profanity or, something silly like that. Now it's like, bro, like, I haven't even got my coffee in me yet, man. And we're already using this word, or we're already doing this. I said, let Fat Daddy get some coffee in him first before we
Yeah,
start all
absolutely.
this foolishness. So, you just kind of got to jive with them and have a good time with them. And it's the old adage, man, like, you catch more bees with sugar and honey than you do with vinegar. So
Yeah,
it's very, very important. And it's imperative as a teacher that you build a rapport with your kids. If
yeah,
you can build that rapport, within that rapport typically comes a little bit of respect and appreciation, and it's a whole lot easier to work with the kids that way. If you steady want to lock horns with kids, they're going to buck.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of a middle school kid. They're going to buck. They don't want to listen because they know everything. You know, the old joke was back in the day, if you wanted to know anything, you ask a middle school kid. Throw away all your dictionaries and all your encyclopedias because middle school kids, they know everything and they're
Yeah.
going to tell you. So, you know, for us, man, like I said, I've just learned how to roll and adapt, you know, and like I said, I'm very blessed to have kids that are that age still in my house. So, you know, I can kind of jive with mine at home and I kind of know a little bit of the lingo and the dialect that the kids are using, you know, and I clown them all the time and I'll start talking like they do, you know, and they laugh. They're like, Dad, you know, you're so mid. And I'm like, okay, I got you. But, you
So,
know,
as time proceeds, the amount of kids growing up in a single parent, home has grown exponentially since you
yeah.
started teaching back in '99. Have you seen effects of that? And if so, what do you think the biggest effect has that been? Whether it be the mom not in the home or the dad not in the home, or maybe it's a split family. What do you think the biggest impact that has had on the kids that you've taught?
So I'll tell you what I've noticed. There definitely has been an upward push in just in marriage itself, or kids out of wedlock, or not. I guess you say not in wedlock
Hmm.
without marriage. What I've seen is the lack of support. Kids are brought into this world without choice, right? They don't
Absolutely.
choose who their parents are. They're brought into the world. So as mom or dad is hustling when these kids are babies, a lot of times they're using babysitters. We're seeing a lot more grandparents involved who are bringing these kids up. Now the grandparents theoretically have already done their job. They've already raised the child and
Yeah.
now they're raising their child's child, which in turn is kind of unfair. You know what I mean? Like they done their job. You know, let them move on. But we're seeing a lot more of that dynamic. And to what I said to earlier, to allude to that, is that generation, which theoretically is my generation, a little bit older, they're not down. They're not familiar with the societal things today. So they can't raise these grandbabies the way that they raise their own children.
Yeah.
And and the mamas and the daddies now that are these single parents with these kids without a stable household, you know, the kids are a product of their environment, man.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
they don't know no better. So as a school system and as a teacher, we're trying to do the best we can. But dude, there's such a fine line between in you know, putting your values and your morals and your ethics into the minds and hands of these kids without stepping over the boundary and crossing the line, because again, you don't know where they're coming from either.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very difficult. So, you know, we try to be as generic as possible and still have expectations for the kids. And like I said, kids for the most part are good, man. Like, you know, we do have some bad ones, but kids are kids, dude. Like I said, you
Yeah.
just have to work hard to build that rapport with them.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things for me, if I had a lot of teachers, a lot of coaches who have that mindset you have, you know what I'm saying? And they're willing to
Yeah.
put everything they have into these children, whether it's, in class or even on the football, baseball field. These teachers, these coaches are willing to put in time with these kids, and they're definitely underpaid. I do appreciate you. Whenever I was growing up, you would tell me straight up what it was about. If I messed
Hmm.
up on something, you told me straight up, whether it was in class or on the
Right.
football field. And switching into that, you're getting to see a new generation of athletes now. You're getting to see both football and baseball.
Right.
Are you seeing? Is there a bigger range of kids who are? How do I put this? Athletic versus non-athletic. Are you seeing a lot more athleticism coming from these generations? What exactly are
Honestly,
you viewing?
I'll be honest with you. You know what I've seen? I've seen a fall off of athleticism, and I attribute that to parents now are putting their eggs in one basket. Kids are not diversified anymore. We're having a big problem right now getting kids to play more than one sport as early as middle school.
Wow.
Parents are really putting focus in their eggs in one basket in one sport, starting at 8, 9, 10 years old. And there's no diversity. They're not diversifying these athletic opportunities for their children, and it hinders their development and growth in a lot of ways, emotionally, mentally, physically, the spiritually. I mean, these kids don't get an opportunity to have any downtime to try something else out, and that becomes a big problem. We're seeing the burnout of these sophomores coming to us in high school. I'm dealing with it with some of my baseball guys at Evans right now. I've got a 16-year-old 10th grader that's about to have Tommy John surgery, UCL reconstruction at 16. And he's like, Coach, I just don't understand. And I'm like, look, man, I said, here's the deal. You started playing travel ball, baseball at 8 years old. I said, you're 16 right now. So just say 8 to 16. We'll just say 8 years. I said, but you got to multiply those 8 years times two because you're playing two seasons
Yeah,
in one calendar year. You're playing a school season and a travel ball season. So you're basically 16 years. So at 16 years old right now, I said, add 8 more years to 16. You have the arm of a 24-year-old
that's
college kid or
that's insane.
professional. I said the wear and tear that you're putting on your body is brutal. I said you guys don't have downtime. And again, this is a one sport athlete. He only plays one sport. He doesn't do anything else. So as a coach and as a man who, if it was round, I played it growing up. We're not seeing that anymore. A lot of these parents are really pushing these kids, and the kids are really adamant about being, writing Hall of Fame speeches at 9 years old, which is
Yeah,
absurd. You know, so the diversity is not there anymore. And as a coach, it frustrates you. And, all the communications that we're having with college coaches, about, hey, I've got so and so, he's a shortstop or blah, 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 whatever position. Does he play any other sports? That's one of the first questions you'll hear from a college coach.
that's
And
interesting. I didn't know they asked questions like that.
100%. And the reason is because there's an old saying, man, athletes are born, they're not made.
Yeah,
Baseball players are born, they're not made. College coaches want kids that are diverse, that are not focused on one sport. You know, you can adapt if you can adapt and play baseball and football or basketball, baseball, football and track. If you can play multiple sports, you're going to be successful at the college level,
yeah,
and those coaches know that. You're also being coached by multiple personalities at that time. You've got a different coaching staff typically with football than you would with baseball. You know what I mean? You may have a crossover of a coach, but a lot of times you're going to see a lot of different personalities in coaching. So now you've got to say, okay, this kid is coachable. He's been in two programs. God forbid you have a three-sport athlete, which is completely like that is obsolete. You don't see that at all anymore.
yeah,
So the things that we're seeing is, to answer your question, is we're seeing a fall off of athletes. We're seeing a lot of individual skill set kids. Now, granted, their skill sets have gotten better, but the problem is the goods you're getting, the kids that you're getting are 3, 4, 5 times, 5 years older than they really are in person years
yeah.
because they've been playing so much.
They just been wearing their arms out the entire time.
Well, it wears everything out, man. I
Yeah,
mean, think about it. All the muscles that you use playing football, you can shut them down at the end of football season. You take a little bit of time off, and then if you want to go out and you want to play baseball or soccer or track, you're using a whole different group of muscles, a whole different skill set. You know what I mean? It's not the same skills that you're using, so you're able to develop as a whole, not just an
yeah.
individual sport and skill specific thing.
And then one helps the other. So, but some baseball skills may help in football. It may make you a little bit more
One
tougher in this
hundred.
area.
Yeah, one hundred
Yeah,
percent, and that's why the college coaches ask that.
yeah.
They want to know how many of these kids are just one sport athlete or multi-sport athletes.
Absolutely. Now, from a
Yep.
standpoint of being able to coach these kids, do you feel like a lot of these kids have a God complex because they've been told they've been good their entire lives, and then they get on these teams and they feel like they're number one, but then they have. There's a lot of athletes in Columbia County. Everybody is good for the most part. Do you feel
Right,
like a
right.
lot of these kids are having this God complex and be like, oh, well, I'm the shit because I've been doing this in minor or in travel ball and in middle school, or are you seeing a lot more humility in the baseball or football?
So what I'm seeing right now is the opportunity to play these sports is prevalent at 7 years, and it's kind of a laugh because there is no skill set at 7, 8, 9 years old. You're still in development phase. You're still learning the foundational skills. So these kids are being sold. What is it called? Pyrite is fool's gold. Isn't that what it is?
Hmm.
Pyrite is.
Yep.
So it's fool's gold when they're young. Now, can those kids in turn work on their craft and become very good? Absolutely. I think what's happened though is as a whole, it's gotten watered down. All of the travel sports have gotten watered down. It's impacted all of your recreation sports. You've got a lot of parents that are living their dream vicariously through their
Yeah.
children and pushing their kid. And look, it's okay to push your kids, but the last time I saw, like the next Joe DiMaggio wasn't 5 years old. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot between the ages of 5 and 15 when those kids hit high school. There's a lot of development. There's a lot of kids that are studs at 7, 8 years old that just kind of peter out and maximize at 10, 11. You know, and that's it. They're at the end of their road. So the kids in essence don't necessarily have a God complex. They come to us very confident, not cocky, not arrogant, confident. But when they see kids of equal levels, skill sets, that is where you see where your bread is buttered. Are
Yeah.
those kids going to hit, or are they going to get off the pot? And that's one of the big things that we see is, you know, that's at high school where we're at, that's where you see your competitors. Who wants to mount up or who wants to go ahead and sit, you know, on the side and
Yeah.
watch. And a lot of these kids, that is where the humbling experience comes in.
Yeah.
You know, these kids were all stars here, all stars there, all star at 9 years old. They've got a whole rack of their, you know, their travel baseball rings. You know,
Absolutely.
for real, like these kids
Yeah.
are blinged out, like for real blinged out. They've
Look
got,
like
you know, these
LeBron James out there.
right? So these kids are coming at coach, check this out, man. I got these rings, you know, diamond up. And I'm like, dog, I'm like, well, what the hell am I coaching high school for, bro? You got everything you need right there
Yeah.
in your, you know,
Exactly.
your yeah, you know, your number 7 ranked team at 9 years old because we have a number 7 ranked team in the country at 9, you know. So
Which
us
is
trying to
insane.
sell our program and not, you know, basically piss on the kids' parade, that's tough. That's a tough ask for all the coaches. Um, but you know, we always support outside organizations without a doubt. It's just we have to be realistic, and we have to be realistic with our parents. And we're really, as coaches, trying to push these kids to diversify. We
Yeah.
really want our kids to become athletic, not individual skill set kids.
Yeah. And do you feel like as soon as these kids, because some of these kids, they've been on a winning team their entire lives, they've been balling their entire lives. Do you feel like when that struggle comes, when that competition comes, are they shutting down, or do some of these kids actually, you know, I know some people are gonna stand up for them. Some people are like that, but do you feel like most of
Yeah.
these kids don't know how to deal with that, so they shut down immediately?
Yeah, so what happens is, as you well know, I mean, you know, in our middle school in Grovetown, you know, we were very unsuccessful in a lot of sports, whereas we
Absolutely.
had some success in other sports, right?
Yeah.
So I always tell, you know, anybody who asks a coach, one of the first things, are you guys ready? Well, coaches are always ready. It's the players we worry about being prepared. We do what we can to prepare them. Coach, are you going to win? That's the next question. Well, last time I looked, you didn't practice to lose,
Yeah.
right? You don't
Absolutely.
practice to lose, you practice to compete and get better. But there's a lot of lessons learned in a loss. There's a lot of humility that can be learned. What we're seeing now is you spot on. Kids who come out of travel ball and these elite type things, they have a hard time with losing because they may not have had enough losing. You know as well as I do in any travel ball organization, 9 times out of 10, the coach is going to get the cream of the crop. Those dudes are recruiting the cream of the crop. You're not just with every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's out there
Yeah.
like rec ball. You know, so rec ball is a little bit more realistic of society. You know, more of the bell curve. You've got some good kids, you got some kids that are not skilled, and then you got some in the middle that can kind of go either way. Well, these travel ball teams, everybody's up here, dude, and if you lose, that's when everything goes sideways. Those kids who are up here, skill level, they, you know, they may run into a daggum donkey and get mule kicked by a team that's better than them, and they don't know how to handle that because
Yeah. Absolutely.
they're skilled. And that is where as a coach, we really sit back in times of adversity. You get a great read on a kid and their character and what's going to happen down the road for them. If they know how to deal with adversity and know how to strap it on, as we say, and mount up and get after it, you know, you can tell a lot from that. So in essence, you know, again, it goes back to parents expose your kids to a broad array of things because when it's all said and done, Athletics is only going to be a part that will define them and give them an outlet if it does give them an outlet. If not, it's going to create a culture. It's going to create a group of of teamwork. As you were talking about earlier, that's one of the things with coaches and teachers. Got coaches that coach understand that you want an outcome for the best of the program. One of my mottos is flip the me upside down. It's not me anymore, it's we. Flip the me
Absolutely.
upside down, and it's about we. So it's not what can me achieve, it's what can we achieve. And that's one of the things that we really push and we really want to continue to push.
Yeah, for sure. So when I remember being in high school, the biggest thing I saw, especially coming out of Grovetown, was a lot of these kids, especially a lot that transferred in from private schools trying to get a little bit more exposure, is
Yeah,
they were out there for themselves. They were mostly out there for themselves, and that's why Columbia County has an issue with continuously winning because you have these kids who come in and they have that God complex, and it's either get me the ball or I'm not playing, and they'll take games off, take plays off, and I think
yeah,
that's the biggest issue is the competitive nature. As soon as it drops off and you're not doing good anymore, that's when you see who has that competitive nature in them. And I think that's the biggest issue in Columbia County, along with the fact that all the talent is dispersed of so many. If we had a
yeah,
Grayson Academy, we would kick
yeah.
everybody's ass. It's just how it would work. We have so much talent going in through, in and out of Columbia County, but it's
Right.
just dispersed really well.
That's right.
Now, a question I have for you: NIL, you know all about that.
Oh God. Yeah, I hate it.
Um, do you think this is damaging the game of football and other major sports, or do you think it's helping this game at all?
So what it's become is pay for play in college, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but it just hit Georgia high school. It just hit the Georgia high school
So
GHSA.
high schoolers are
So
getting paid now.
yeah, high school kids, yeah, next year, yeah. So what it's going to do is we've already had an issue of the hypothetical transfer portal in high school
Yeah,
sports, right?
yeah,
A lot of kids, like you were just saying, they bounce, they go to a school here, they go to a school there. Coaches, quote unquote, recruiting kids in high school, whatever you want to call it. The NCAA, in my personal opinion, has created a monster, and I don't know that they're going to be able to undo it now. Between the
yeah,
portal and the NIL, they've done nothing more than created professional athletics, professional sports across all sports in the amateur world. See, the
yeah,
NCAA used to be designed to be amateur sports. That was the whole that when I was playing college baseball, that was the beauty of it. You
yeah,
played college baseball in hopes to play professional baseball and be able to collect money. So when I
yeah.
finished playing college baseball and I got a chance to play in the Frontier League in the Independent League, minor league baseball, when I got a $650 check, dude, for about $90 per start when I was pitching, I was pretty damn happy about that. Like
Absolutely,
I had signed a contract, dude. I was, you couldn't have told me shit back in 1997. I was the man, dude, because I had worked so freaking hard to get that opportunity. Now these kids come into college, or hell, they're in high school now. They're going to get NIL money. Darion Reed, who just transferred out to California, he got NIL money out there. Now, granted, he's going to be a McDonald's All American, a top player in the nation, but he
yeah,
came up through the Grovetown program in basketball, and he chucked deuces and dipped out because they gave him an opportunity.
yeah,
Do I
absolutely,
blame? No. If the kid's getting, he's 17, 18 years old, dude, and he's getting $500,000. I mean, who money talks? Who wouldn't do that?
absolutely.
But what it's done is it's killed the luster of college athletics, and high schools will be this. They're going to follow suit. It will be the same way in high school. The thing that frustrates me is that these mid-major schools and these small market schools are going to be like the small market pro teams. They're not going to be able to afford these big five-star recruits. You're a kid going to Toledo, or a kid going to Michigan. Who's going to pay more?
Yeah,
Michigan,
absolutely,
Go Blue is going to pay a whole lot more than damn Toledo. I can assure you of that. So, these marginal kids, they're going to go where the money talks. And it really has. I mean, it's ruined the idea behind the game, the idea behind college sports. I don't fault the kids. I fault the NCAA. I fault all of corporate America for really pushing this.
Yeah.
And I think what it's done is it's rubbed society the wrong way. I mean, there was the funny thing over this past Super Bowl. I'm sure you saw it all over the news. You know, they listed all of the college kids this year. You know, little Arch Manning and the Williams kid from USC. All these dudes. I
Multi
think JJ
millions.
was there, right? They all had more money in contract this year in NIL money than Brock Purdy, who was the starting quarterback for the 49ers. I mean,
In the Super Bowl.
explain that to me, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah, how
exactly.
did like how do we get there? How do we get to this point? You
And
know?
I know
So
boosters at people like Texas, UCLA, USC, Georgia. They have a lot of money, so they're willing to pay for it. But who's going
they
to really
do.
get messed up is these two D3 schools who don't have the money for it, and then they may go out. Like they may not be able to afford to even have a football program.
Well, think about this, man. Think about Georgia Southern, right? Georgia
Yeah,
Southern's a Division 1 program, considered like a, I call them, they're a mid-major football.
yeah,
So Georgia Southern, how are they going to be able to compete in the state of Georgia with the University of Georgia? And then the second one is Georgia Tech, and
yep,
then you might as well throw Kennesaw in over there.
yep,
How are they going to compete? Because they don't have the boosters. Here's a hypothetical. What is Georgia Southern known for? What academics? Education and nursing.
yep,
How many damn boosters are given back to Georgia Southern that are nurses and freaking educators? We
yeah,
ain't loaded, bro. We're not giving a shit ton of money back to Georgia Southern.
exactly.
So their boosters are nowhere near what the University of Georgia is. You
Yep,
know what I mean? So Georgia Southern will never be able to afford to pay the NIL money that these other schools are. So you're already at a competitive disadvantage, and it's not your fault. I mean, it's through no fault of their own. It's just ridiculous.
absolutely. Yeah, and then you like people like Caleb Williams. He's like, well, I don't have to get drafted. If I don't get paid enough or I don't go to, that's the problem now is there's not going to
Yep,
be anybody who wants to get drafted. They're just going to be like, all right, well, if I'm going to the Chicago Bears, I'll just play one more year. You
that's
know what I
right.
mean? Stuff like that. And that's the biggest issue. And then you have coaches or players that are getting paid in college. Why the hell would they listen to their coach? That's what Deion
Yeah,
Sanders was talking about. Why would he want to coach somebody who's getting paid millions and millions of dollars compared to his salary? And why would they're not going to listen? They're just fresh out of high school. They're not
yep,
going to listen to a coach. Why would they? They're getting paid
100%.
millions.
Yeah, yeah. But this, I mean, but again, this is where we're at in society. This is where we're at in corporate America. College sports has become a business, and it is. It's probably one of the most lucrative businesses in all of the free world. Um, but at what cost?
Yeah,
At
absolutely.
what what is the premium that we're paying? Like I said, as a 17, 18-year-old kid, man, it'd be freaking great for me to be able to go out, and get paid, six figures just to show up and play a sport that I love. And
Absolutely.
you think about, like, seriously, a guy like this Caleb Williams kid, or this, Arch has thrown what, 6 passes in college football,
He's
and
yeah,
with
he's second string, and Quinn Ewers is staying another year.
yeah. So think about this, man. Right? So Ewers is coming back, and this cat's going to be there still. He's already made 7 figures. If Archie Manning does not throw another freaking pass in his life, he's already a 7-figure kid.
Absolutely.
Dude, I ain't seen 7 figures in 24 years cumulative of my teaching salary.
Yeah.
I mean, do the
And if he
math.
does it right, he'll never have to work again
Yeah,
at 18,
yeah,
19 years old.
yep,
It's crazy how much money is here for these kids. It's absolutely crazy. But
yep,
the same,
yep.
so I see it both sides. You see these kids, they're coming in, they're breaking their back for these colleges, and they're not making anything. Which we say they're not making anything. When Johnny Manziel wasn't making anything, he was making millions, right? But but these colleges are making. I mean, NCAA is making $1 billion a year.
Yep.
So I mean, I see it that way. But when it comes to the competitive nature of the game, when it comes to the integrity of the game, I feel like that dilutes it a lot solely because these kids, why would they listen to a coach when they're making multi-million dollars a year?
They
It's
don't
like
have
what they
to.
say about boxers. Once they make that big, fight, why would they come back and want to fight again? They just made 300 million. Why would they want to come back
Yeah.
and make more money? Why would they? You don't want to
Yep.
get punched in the face again.
Nah, bro. Why? I mean, why would you? You take that ass whooping one time and walk to the bank? I mean,
Exactly. Like
it's
Conor McGregor, he
no brainer.
made 300 million that one year against Floyd
That's
Mayweather.
right.
We've barely seen his ass in the ring since. Why would you?
Yep.
You got a Lambo yacht
But
out in the Bahamas. You know what I'm saying? Why
yep,
would you want to go back and fight again?
dog. He laughed his way to the bank.
Absolutely. He didn't even have to win. 300 mil to lose. Sign me up.
Yeah,
I'll be in there for one,
just
2 rounds.
just to show up.
Yeah.
And again, that's where Archie Manning is right now. Now, granted, he's carrying a name and a legacy,
Yeah.
but all Arch had to do was show up to the campus of Texas,
Yeah.
and he slid seven figures.
He just
It's
took the
just
highest bidder. Yeah, he just took the highest bidder. Apparently, I mean, Texas, Georgia, and I think Bama, maybe Florida was in the mix. But
yeah,
the boosters, okay, we're going Texas hasn't been good in a while. We want that player that's going to bring the
yep,
audience. Arch Manning is that guy, especially because he played in a 4A school in Texas, balled out every year. Why would they not want him?
right,
So,
yep.
question for you is, who are some names that people should look out for? Who are you seeing out there right now, whether it be football, baseball? Who is out there right now that people should be like, okay, this cat, he's good.
Locally,
Yes.
man, I'll tell you what. Football, I'm kind of disconnected right now from
Yeah.
football. I really just obviously watching my daughter, cheerleading on Friday nights. There's some decent players. Obviously, the short kid at Evans,
Yeah.
the decommit from Alabama. Not sure what's going to happen. He's going to be probably the next big one to come out of this area.
He
We've
he
had a
may
couple
commit to, from what I heard, because his whole
Georgia.
family's Clemson. So his whole family's a Clemson fans.
Okay,
And he
okay,
was originally, I think he may, or I may be wrong. I don't know if he was or wasn't committed to Bama. But then after Nick Saban left, I think he
yeah.
decommitted. Maybe I could be
So,
wrong.
so he was committed to Bama when Saban retired, announced his retirement.
Yeah.
Him and a lot of the other recruits kind of just
That's
basically,
another problem. We'll get into that after this, but that's another
yeah,
problem with the coach leaving. Oh my lord.
yeah.
So
So
I know
short,
about what's
so
that?
short. He decommitted from Alabama and
Yeah.
opened back up, which is fine. I mean, it's fine for him because he's got another year.
Hmm.
And of course, Kirby Smart. That was the big thing a few weeks ago. He flew down and landed his helicopter, on the football field at Evans.
Yeah.
So he's probably one of the bigger football names that's going to come out of here that I've seen in the area. There's a couple baseball kids. There's some big arms around. I've got obviously in my staff. I've got a couple D1 kids that are going to go and throw at some pretty big universities. So I would imagine anticipate in the next couple of years they may have an opportunity after college to do a little something. Hoop wise, obviously Darion Reed was the big thing. He was the big dog, and again the NIL money got him, so he chucked deuces. The West Side boys basketball team, they just three-peated today. They won
I
their
saw
third
that.
championship. So they're loaded to the gills with some good basketball players. I don't know what that will equate to, college wise, but it's like you said earlier, we have a lot of talent, but the elite talent is in development, and the problem is when you develop this elite talent in Columbia County, you pray to God that it stays here.
Yeah.
These guys work their tails off at Grovetown High developing Darien, and that money talked. And he had a trainer in Atlanta, from to my understanding, who was kind of his handler,
Yeah.
and got in contact with these cats out west, got him that money, man, and he dipped out. So there's a little animosity, I think, but got to do what's best for the kid, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, a lot of these kids nowadays, especially like lower Georgia kids, mid Florida kids, they're coming out of places where they don't have any money. You know what I mean? The football,
That
baseball, track, all this stuff is the only way they know how to get out. You know what I mean?
100
So as soon as they see 500,000, they even see 200,000. Why would they not dip? They can take care of the mom, the kids back home. They can take care of whoever they want to.
right,
And, I mean, why would they not? You know what I mean?
yeah,
And going back to the Nick Saban thing, so that's another issue with the transfer portal too. As soon as you lose a coach, it's over. Especially someone like Nick Saban or Dabo Sweeney, someone like uh
that's
guy from Georgia. I hate even mentioning his name with his hair and the freaking visor. I hate Kirby Smart, but um, but
no,
yeah.
you're
So
you're,
that's another
you're
issue
spot
I'm
on.
seeing is these cats. As soon as they do that, they can just easily get out. And why would they
Yeah.
not? It's just made it
No.
easier.
So one of the things we always talk about as coaches, in public schools, you're pretty secure with your job, right? Because we're teachers first and we coach second. We coach after school.
Yeah.
Think about being a college coach in society today. You recruit a kid to come into your program. You recruit based on your offense or your defensive scheme, right? You're recruiting kids for those specific needs. Well, those kids underperform after 1 or 2 years. Your boosters get pissed, and you're heave hoed. You're out
Yep.
because we're in a society, dude. Let's be honest. It's instant gratification. Like we want results yesterday. I
Yep.
don't have time to wait. So it's a catch 22. The coaches are in a tough predicament. Now, granted, they're being well paid and they have the autonomy to recruit what they need. But at the same time, if those kids don't perform, or with the transfer portal now, if they're not getting that love, if what have you done for me lately as an 18-year-old kid, and I'm not
Yeah.
getting that NFL money, I can chuck deuces and I'm gone. No
Yeah.
question asked. So as a coach, man, like this has got to be one of the most tumultuous times to be a head coach in college sports because your livelihood really does truly depend on 2 years. Like right now, your contract is 2 years, and I say that facetiously, but that's it, dude. You don't get something done in 2 years, your ass is gone. It's
Absolutely.
insane, bro. It's insane. There's like no sense of security, and with the kids, there's no sense of commitment. So, it's a damned if you do and a damned if you don't situation.
Absolutely. Especially in SEC schools,
Oh
big
God,
schools, Georgia,
cutthroat.
Michigan, Ohio State. If you're not winning within 2 years, especially look
Yes,
at Florida's program. They used to be an elite program. And then
right.
after Urban Meyer left, it just went to shit.
Yeah,
And that's
but
how
but
if
here's the thing: they've Florida, University of Florida. I think they fell on a hard time, and I say this because I think the SEC became very unbalanced. There was a competitive imbalance. I think, and I hate to say this, but I think the University of Georgia and Alabama had such a stronghold on the recruits that Florida wasn't getting those marginal kids. They weren't getting those border kids anymore. Same
yeah,
thing with Alabama. If you look at the Georgia Alabama line, dude, all of those marginal kids that before when Urban Meyer was there, he could pluck. He could pluck those kids out of those other states, bring
yeah,
them to Florida. You don't have a big name there right now. There's nobody big like Urban Meyer was
yeah,
that can persuade those kids to come. Dude,
absolutely.
those kids go to Alabama. All they got to do is see the Crimson Tide. That's it. They don't even got to see Saban. They just
All
know
they
they're
got to
going to
see
be
is the
playing for 2 years.
championships. That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, how hard do you have to work to recruit? Seriously, like you don't have to do shit. You go to University of Georgia, and I'm a Carolina guy, but you go to UGA, dude. All you got to do is go into Athens and look and be like, "This is me, dog. This is
yeah.
me."
If you
Like they
drive,
don't
so
have to.
I live here now. If you drive through
Yeah,
Athens, you get in Athens. It's a big ass billboard of Carson Beck. You
yeah,
drive out of Athens, there's another big ass billboard of Carson Beck. Just as soon as you
yeah.
get in, as soon as you get out, it's just the luster of it. As soon as Kirby Smart changed, though I don't like Georgia, I do appreciate Kirby Smart. He changed the entire culture of that team, of that entire university, because they went
Well,
from
yeah,
winning 10 games and being okay with it, to if we're not in the championship game, it's a loss no matter what. And then they
100%.
kicked who was it? They kicked FSU's ass in that bowl game,
Yep.
and they didn't even care. I didn't see no celebrating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kirby looked just as pissed as when he lost to Alabama.
It was an expectation that they
Yep,
win. It was just how.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
No, you're right,
that's
dude.
what differs people like Nick Saban to people and
Yep.
Kirby Smart, Urban Meyer in his prime, is they were able to make a culture to where losing wasn't acceptable. You wanted to you losing hurt worse than winning felt good.
Right.
Basically, is what it was. And if you
100%.
lost, that was a painful, painful thing. But the same thing, I heard Nick Saban talk about this. If they won, they celebrate for 24 hours. They lost, they were upset for 24 hours. After that 24-hour mark, it was as if they were 0-0 again. And that's the
Yeah.
best thing you can teach any athlete, competitor ever, because even though you lost, let it settle in, understand your flaws for 24 hours, and get the hell out of there.
Clear the mechanism.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's why Georgia's going to remain good. I mean, their recruiting is amazing right now.
Oh
Um,
God, yeah.
I'm I'm an LSU guy, so I really love to see LSU win it again, especially with Oklahoma and Texas coming in. These new fans, they're
Yeah.
coming in very rambunctious. Um, so I would like to see both LSU, Georgia play it out. I know they're doing it's just a one conference thing now. It's not based on
Yeah.
East or West anymore, right?
No, it's going to be a straight conference, and I think they'll do a kind of a mix up, almost like a round robin type schedule each year. And I don't even think you're going to play everybody within the conference. It'll be on a rotation
Yeah,
basis,
I believe so.
which is more to me. That's more of a level playing field, anyhow.
Yeah.
I think that's
Absolutely.
if you're going to go to a super conference, that's the way it needs to be done.
Yeah, because I mean the West has dominated for a long time. I mean Georgia's got in there and did their thing, but Nick Saban, LSU, Texas A&M at one time, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. I mean that conference was crazy. That division was
Can
crazy.
you imagine, bro? Seriously, being Vanderbilt rolling into damn Tuscaloosa or freaking Athens
Do you
every year?
remember that game? Do you
Heck,
remember that game?
yeah,
Where they were like they beat somebody 52-0 to the first game. And they were
yeah,
talking shit. Like, yeah, Alabama's gonna have to play us next week. You know, we play that SEC football. They get over there. Jalen Hurts, Nick Saban, I believe what's his name was still playing. Devontae Smith. They
yeah,
get out there. They rout them 62-0.
yeah.
I'm like Vanderbilt, like you just need to shut up. You haven't been good ever.
But that's what you get into, man. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, we're in the SEC, but are we?
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened when Missouri started, right? Remember
Yeah,
how terrible they were? I mean, they're getting better. They've done better in past years than
yeah,
Vanderbilt, but the SEC is a dog, and a lot of people who Big Ten, Big 12, they're like, SEC is not that strong. But if you look at who's won championships in the past 20 years, the
right.
SEC is dominated.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah, and I can't say I have been cheering for South Carolina. I did like Spencer Rattler. I mean, I don't know what exactly. I haven't watched South Carolina hard enough to know what's going on there, but I know I did see some things last year that were good. It's just they weren't consistent enough to be great and win consistent games.
yeah. They're obviously the years of the Spurrier. Obviously Spurrier brought a lot. Former Florida guy, right? He brought a
Yeah,
lot to the program. Followed up Lou Holtz, obviously, but there's one of the things we laugh about, man. Like we're talking about right now. Like think about going to Tuscaloosa or Athens, right? They're college towns. Clemson is a college town.
yeah,
Gainesville, Florida is a college town. Dude, Columbia, South Carolina, ain't a whole hell of a lot going on in Kakalaki. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, you got to work your ass off to recruit a kid to come to Columbia, South Carolina.
Especially if you're going against Georgia
Yeah,
and South
you know,
and Clemson,
you
North Carolina,
know,
even.
and we're just talking about Vanderbilt. Well,
Yeah,
dude, look, man, you throw me in damn downtown Nashville at 18 years old? Shoot, you wouldn't have to tell me nothing to go to Vanderbilt. But
absolutely.
that's where we're at now. And that's the other thing I think that people don't realize. So, Carolina's always had to work their tails off
Hmm.
to recruit because it's a hard recruiting area.
Yeah,
You're competing against Clemson, who is, when you drive into Clemson, it's one way in and one way out, bro. I mean, it is a college town. So, you're competing with that, and it makes it tough, bro. I'm no excuses, but Rattler, he got us over a little bit of a hump this year. And I think, in the years to come, they'll continue, but like I said, the playing field has become more level now, with the NIL stuff, with the transfer portal. There's a lot more variables now to recruiting than it used to be. So it's like professional sports in the free agent market, dude. It's like, who's the next guy that's
yeah.
available? Who's the next super senior that's in his seventh year of college that we could pluck? I mean,
There was one kid who was, I think he was in Miami. He played for
yeah,
9 seasons.
I'm not lying, bro. I'm not lying. I mean, there's a dude that's going to get like his eighth year of
Yeah,
eligibility. I mean,
like
bro's
Stetson Bennett was what,
he's,
25? Was he
yeah,
24, 25?
he's getting his AARP and his damn diploma at
Yes,
the same time.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, for real, it's just it's absurd. And here he is
COVID
against,
cost COVID. I
yeah,
mean, there's some kids who I think there was a punter who was 28 years old still kicking for Miami. It was
yeah.
insane.
Yeah, and thinking that my daughter is a senior in high school this year, she'll graduate and then turn 18, that she could theoretically be in college with a 27-year-old or 28-year-old dude next year who was in college. I mean, that's freaking stupid.
Yeah. So tell me this: Are you still a Broncos fan?
Love the Broncos. Yeah,
Broncos. How
yeah.
do you feel about how they treated Russell Wilson?
So it's great because me and my one of my colleagues at work, Wes Wookty, he's a Broncos guy too, and we shoot the breeze all the time about it. Um, they brought Russell in a very, very difficult situation.
Yeah,
Um, Anybody who comes into Denver as a quarterback is going to follow John Elway and Peyton Manning. That's just all there
absolutely.
is to it.
Yep.
Anything less is not acceptable. In saying that, you took Russell Wilson, who was um, he was a quarterback that played in Seattle. He was a program and a style quarterback. He was designed and he fit a specific offensive scheme for Seattle, right?
It was always defense first with them. because their
Right.
defense was always shut down.
So his stats, even if they were bare minimum, they could win games. They had one of the best running backs in Marshawn Lynch.
Yep,
They had a couple guys on the outside that he could throw to, but for the most part, he was a quarterback that was designed for Seattle. He came into Denver. He's had multiple coaches and offensive coordinators. Think about it. He was in a lose lose situation.
absolutely.
If you look at it, in all honesty, his numbers were freaking great this year. He had very good numbers as a me, but not a we. You
Yeah,
know, their numbers as a team sucked. He didn't take care of the ball. He did make some errors that way, but I think they did him dirty as a whole. I think he needs to go find a system. He's the system guy. He
yeah.
needs to find something that really helps him. Teddy Bridgewater was the same way. They brought Teddy in 2 years ago. I had a chance to watch him play in Denver, which was really cool. But again, Teddy was a system quarterback. He blows his knee out in Minnesota. The whole facet of his game that had him running in a mobile quarterback was nipped. He was never the same again. He was
Changed.
still
Yeah,
Teddy, right? But so right now, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where their draft pick's going to be. There's been rumors, JJ McCarthy, but apparently JJ McCarthy had a really good I think he had a good combine. So they're talking about him. He may not even make it past the fourth pick right now.
he may go. So what I'm hearing is the first four picks supposed to be QBs, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But the
So
thing with
Denver was
Chicago, if they pick up another quarterback, it's just dumb. They're not building around these quarterbacks at all, and that's the
no,
issue.
they're
That's
not.
why the Chicago's going to stay terrible.
Yeah.
But the thing with the Broncos, did you hear about what happened? They were going to sit him for not cutting guaranteed money or something like that. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah, so there's all kinds of clauses in contracts. These guys get bonuses. You have minimum requirements, like you have to play 8 games. If you have 1,000 yards, passing in the first 5 games, you get an extra, $500,000. There's different
Yeah.
clauses in there. And during the season, they had asked him to sit out, basically so he wouldn't get hurt. I think that was the idea. They were trying to be able to offload him. The bottom line is, dude, they're still tied in, I think, for $242 million over the next couple of years because his contract's already extended.
It's
So they've
dead
already
money too.
I think it was 242 or 252 for 4 years, bro.
Yeah.
So they're already in bed with this dude for another 4 years. Who the hell is going to take that contract from them? Nobody. Nobody can afford that. That's going to hit the cap. And that's going to hit Denver's cap this year. Like that'll hit Denver's salary cap.
Yeah, they
So
released him for that reason. That they're taking all that cap hit right now, so he's not going
right.
to have that contract
Yeah.
plus another contract once he signs another one. He's going to be making bank.
Yeah, their upper level management in the organization has been in disarray for quite a few years. And again, I think what happened is, their last hurrah was when Peyton came in. They took a stab at getting an old dude to come in, but he was an old seasoned dude who was
Yeah,
smarter than the average bear. And he really set that bar back up to where it used to be with John Elway in those days. But there's just, again, even in the NFL, it's a level playing field now. If you look at all of these various teams in the NFL, it's always the same cats that are in it every year, right? It's always the last one standing. You've got your Chiefs, you've got your Buffalo Bills. For years, you had wherever Brady was, whether it was Tampa or New England, you always had the same dudes.
yeah,
The what do they call them? The usual suspects. They were always there.
and it's
And
never the Cowboys.
no, and right. But until you can figure out the game plan and the
Yep,
script on how the hell they're doing it, you're gonna be sitting like you and I, dude, every Sunday watching them on playoffs.
yep,
TV with your damn beer in one hand and a remote in the other. It's just
yep,
all there is to it. So I think that we're seeing that now. We're seeing it's becoming more prevalent in the NFL and professional sports.
yeah. And to speak back to what you said about him just being a game manager, a system guy, whenever we talk about stuff like that, it's literally not a diss against these players. Some players are literally the game changers, like a Patrick Mahomes. He could fit
Right,
any team you put him on, he's going to do his thing. And then you have other players like Russell Wilson who need a certain system for him
right.
to work out. And a lot of people think that's a diss against these players, and it's simply not. You have these players who, if you put them into the perfect system, they'll do exactly what you need to do. You just need to have that good defense on the other side to back that up as well. That
That's
doesn't
right.
mean they're not a good quarterback or you were dissing that quarterback. It's simply stating they when the game's on the line, they're not going to mess the game up for you, but they're also not going to win it for you neither.
Right. So what I was telling Wes, we were talking about that today, is if you look this year at Russell Wilson and what he did in his numbers over, yeah, obviously the past couple years in Denver, but look at Sean Payton, who is the head coach. Sean Payton had Drew Brees for all those years.
Yep.
Russell Wilson is polar opposite of Drew Brees,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Drew Brees was a system quarterback in the Sean Payton offense and his scheme and what he wanted to put in.
He
Russell
was
Wilson,
literally perfect.
Russell Wilson is not that dude. And
Exactly.
fortunately, there was an expectation that he could be, but it's not in his skill set.
Yep.
Russell Wilson is 5 foot nothing, can't see over anybody on his damn line. Very similar to Breeze. Breeze was
Yep.
only 6'1", but Russell has to be able to hand the biscuit off, and he's got to be able to roll out. He's got to clear the
Absolutely.
pocket a little bit to get some throwing lanes. And if you try to keep him as a pocket passer like Breeze used to do with timing routes and deep routes and guys that ran like damn gazelles, that's why he was successful.
Absolutely.
Denver cannot be that way with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Sean Payton's got to get a system quarterback and system guys, to run that scheme. And of course, it's like anything else, dude. The quarterback is the first man down. He's the first scapegoat, and then it becomes the head coach. Well, they can't fire Sean Payton because they just hired him. You know,
Decided.
Russell Wilson didn't put up the numbers and get the playoffs in his first 2 years, so we got to get rid of him. It's a shitty deal,
That's
but it's the
how it
reality
works.
of professional
Yeah.
sports.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. But with Russell Wilson, I feel like he does have a good arm. He definitely trains well. I think the difference between him and Drew Brees is Drew Brees would stand in the pocket, make that slant throw. He had a Mike Thomas. He had the
That's right.
Jimmy Grahams that could get out quick, and
Right.
his timing was amazing. His timing was impeccable. And I think
Yeah.
his size and lack of athleticism was made up for his ability to get the ball out of his hands. With
Right.
Russell Wilson, he needs that rollout. He needs that bootleg. He needs someone quick on the outside who can run
That's
that
right.
out route, who can go up and make that corner route because
Sure.
he has that arm to make on the run. Drew Brees wasn't the same that way. And Drew Brees had a good running backs as well with Marshawn Lynch and or not Marshawn Lynch, guy from Alabama. What's his name? Mark Ingram and
Oh
Alvin
yeah.
Kamara.
Yep.
He had a lot of good players on his side. But I just don't feel like Russell Wilson's a different animal. And I think
Right.
the system that Pete Carroll created with that defense, he definitely went defense first and just got him some decent wide receivers like Percy Harvin.
Correct.
And then you had Marshawn Lynch in the backfield with a good O line. It was just a recipe for success, especially with that team.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm dreading every year. I don't even
Well,
want to see the first.
again, Dallas tried to take that route too, man. And I'll be honest with you, man. I grew up outside of Philly, so it was diehard Eagles, but
Yeah,
there was a lot of fear in those fans when they picked up Dak and they started building around Prescott and started putting in some guys. There was a lot of fear, dude. There's a
yeah,
lot of fear, but there's a disconnect in that organization somewhere. I'm not sure if it's because Jerry Jones puts so much pressure on those players to perform that they can never truly let go and play
yeah,
without fear of messing up. Does that make sense? It's
yeah.
almost
No,
like it's counterproductive.
no, I can. So what I think the problem is Jerry wants to have too many hands on these players, on the coaches. He's the GM and the owner. I think that's the biggest
Yeah,
issue. When it comes to Dallas, there's studs everywhere. The defense has studs. You got Micah Parsons with
it has
Deron
skill
Bland
guys.
and
Yeah,
Trayvon Diggs. On the offense, you got CeeDee Lamb. We got this new guy named Jake Ferguson, who's our tight end.
yeah,
I don't know who's going to be our running back this year. From what I heard, it may be Austin Eckler or maybe what's his name, Derrick Henry. I'm not sure. There's a lot of running backs out there. And then Dak Prescott, he's not going to lose you the big game, but he's also not going to win it. Our
sure.
defense in the past 2 years have been our thing. We've been top two in every category. The
Yeah,
biggest issue, and then Mike McCarthy, I think he's too conservative. That's why I like the guy from Detroit. I feel like he's there to win the fucking game. If he's not there to win the game, he's not going to show up. What is it? Dan Campbell? Is that his name?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love him as a coach. I like what's his name from Pittsburgh? Kevin Sumlin. No, is it Kevin Sumlin?
Mike Tomlin.
Tomlin. That's right. Other guy to coach for A&M. But I think the biggest issue in Dallas isn't culture. It's the fact that Jerry Jones wants to have his hand in everything that happens, and therefore the coach really isn't the coach. He's just there playing puppet for Jerry Jones, and I think
Right.
that's why he
So
liked Jason Garrett so much, and that's why he likes Mike McCarthy so much.
let me bounce this off you. So you were talking about McCarthy, right, being
Yep.
conservative. Do you think that there's a sense of the same feeling because you've got Jerry Jones, who is the quintessential owner, the big dog in the NFL, who plays everybody like a puppet?
Yep.
I mean, McCarthy was pretty damn successful in Green Bay, was he not?
He was. Yeah.
You know
He
what I mean,
played. I mean, he played in the tough division, and he
bro?
played in the NFC. So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, it's
and
a tough handle.
he was balls to the wall, and he had some elite talent there. But he also had some years where he had some mediocre guys, and they were successful.
Yep.
It makes me wonder if McCarthy has come in, and Jerry Jones may be pulling back on the reins with him too. Like, or maybe he's afraid to cut loose. Maybe McCarthy's saying, shit, man, like every week I'm fighting for my freaking job.
Yeah. The
You
best
know?
thing
So
I've heard recently is that Jimmy Johnson had a hour long conversation with Jerry Jones after that loss to Green Bay. That's the best thing
yeah,
I've heard. Anything with Jimmy Johnson, I think, is one of the greatest coaches of all time. He did his thing in Miami, came to
without it.
Dallas, and did his thing. As soon as I heard that, I was very optimistic. But again, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I can't be too optimistic because if I am, then it's just going to happen again. But the fact that Jimmy Johnson is back into the category of messing with the Cowboys is, I think, is something that we all should look forward to for sure.
Maybe he hires him as a consultant, you
Yeah,
know?
I would love that. Absolutely would love that. The fact that we finally put him in the ring of honor is a big thing, I think, for sure.
Yeah,
But looking back on that '90s team, he could do
yeah,
no wrong. After that Herschel Walker trade, it was insane,
yep,
and I didn't get to experience that at all. But I wish I did. Obviously, I grew up with my brother Daryl, who was able to
yeah,
watch all that, and obviously that's why I'm a Cowboys fan. But
sure.
yeah, LSU. I hope we do good this year. We lost Jaden Daniels, and we lost a lot of good players, but hopefully we're able to do good there. Um, Hopefully he'll go top 10 too. I don't know. He's an athletic dude. And he has an arm.
LSU will do nothing more than reload like they do every freaking year. They're
Yeah. Yep.
unbelievable.
Yeah. See, I think what's his name? Kelly or not Kelly? What's his name? The coach now. I always think of Coach O, but it's not Coach O. It's
It's not, is it?
no, it's what's his name from Notre Dame.
Is it Dan Kelly?
No, for LSU.
Oh, LSU.
That cat's name, I always forget it. Is it Brian Kelly? What's
His
that guy's
last name
name?
is Kelly.
Something Kelly. I
Yeah,
think. I mean, he did his thing in Notre Dame. Every time they went to a big game, they lost. So I'm not sure. They're doing well in recruiting right now, but it's hard to compete up against or Georgia, Alabama, people
yeah.
like that. But we'll see what happens. And then the Cowboys, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. And I hope South Carolina is a little bit better this year. It's hard to compete against Clemson and Georgia when it comes to recruiting, man.
Look, our goal right now is 6 wins, brother.
Yeah.
Carolina's done 3 years, 6 wins, get us bowl eligible, and that's a step in the right direction for all the years of heartache.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you being on today.
My God,
Um,
thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for all the years you gave me, whether it be middle school, high school. I remember I came back to you for my senior project. You let me take the reins on some of the defense. That was one of the best times I had in my life. I love football and sports
Yeah,
in
man.
general, so I appreciate that. Any positive vibes you want to give to the audience? Anything you want to say before you go?
Nah, man, just keep moving forward. And if you're a sport oriented person or an athlete, remember, flip that me upside down, baby. Flip the me
That's right.
upside down.
All right, Coach. Hope to hear from you soon. I appreciate you being on.
Take care, man. Be